Cool, so that's the recording started. Welcome to the NWC show. This is episode 9. And if you would like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, well, my name is Steve, SCW_Steve on Twitter and on YouTube, SCW The Wrestling Channel. It's great to be on the show. I've watched a lot of your content recently, so yeah, it's really good to be here.
Thanks a lot, man. I watch your content literally pretty much every time you put it up. It's really good to catch up on in the mornings and stuff when I'm kind of at the gym and stuff like that.
I appreciate that a lot, really do.
So, well, at the gym, I mean like exercising in the house just now. COVID gyms are closed, do you know what I mean? So the first question we've got is, what got you into wrestling? What kind of thing makes you remember the first moment you saw wrestling and was like, that's my jam, I need to watch that?
Right, so for me, we're going back away, if you don't mind. We're going all the way back to 1992, is where it started for me. And there was a movie that was on Sky Movies at the time. I believe it was No Holds Barred with Hulk Hogan. And just before the movie started, there was an advert on Sky Movies saying that WrestleMania 8 was going to be on afterwards. It was introduced by Mr. Perfect. When that came up, I was like, I saw the movie, and then I was sort of like intrigued to see what WrestleMania was all about. Before I was to watch it, and they tell me how wrestling works, that, you know, it's more predetermined and the scripting and all stuff like that. And I remember watching that first show. Well, I had to tape it on VHS because I was quite young at the time. And I remember watching it and just the idea of this big stadium, the fact that, you know, we had such great larger-than-life characters like The Undertaker. The first match on the card was, you know, El Matador Tito Santana, Shawn Michaels, which is a great way to start wrestling if you're going to watch any match to begin with, two solid workers. But it was a funny story that comes with this as well, though, because VHS back in the day, you know, you only had so long on the tape that worked. So I didn't know how long the show was going to be. So I needed to have the long play option. It's not like today we have the WWE Network. You can go back and say, oh, you know, yeah, I'm going to go watch that. I went to sleep or whatever. So I had a long time to wait to watch the whole show. I had got up to the Natural Disasters versus Money Inc. and the match cut out halfway through. And every time until like it would watch that show again, I'd still watch it 3 or 4 months later. But yeah, I mean, I was hooked from the minute go. But I think the thing that really kept me going afterwards, SummerSlam 92, that was at Wembley Stadium. I wasn't fortunate enough to be there for that event, but of course, such a big event hitting London and in the UK. From that point onwards, that gripped me. That big main event, Bret Hart and the British Bulldog, sold. I've been there ever since.
Yeah, 100%, man. I think a lot of people don't realise how lucky they're with like the network and even like long form DVDs and stuff like that now. Back with the VHS, it was like 180 minutes and you had to just hope it would work.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many times that you miss out something at the end. You think, oh, damn it, you know.
So people don't realise how lucky. My story's quite similar to yours, man. I was like, so I'm in 92. I was like 1, I think, or like when WrestleMania was on. I was like 9 months or something. So I was like round about 95, 96. So I was really young. And I was at my mum's friend's house. I was walking by a TV and it was on. I don't remember what it was. I just remember wrestling being on. And I just sat down and watched the whole show. Then I never knew what it was. I just knew it was guys in the ring. And it was more like 98, 99 when I started to get really into it when I was in school. Yeah. And I remember going to a supermarket and getting 2 WCW DVDs, Bash at the Beach and Spring Stampede, and King of the Ring 99. And just watching them religiously. It was like those 3 were the only ones I had for so long. And it was just like religious to sit and watching them. It was like an experience. And WCW pay-per-views back then were the good old 4-hour ones. So it was a long kind of thing for a kid to sit and watch. But ever since then, I've just been hooked on wrestling. I think it's the best thing ever.
Well, we were lucky, wasn't we? We grew up in like what you'd say probably the high peak times of where the popularity was for wrestling as well. Like you say, 98, 99. I mean, the Attitude Era, like that was such a popular time. You know, big TV deals all the time. So, you know, we grew up at a very, you know, favourable time, if you want, when it comes to the wrestling business.
Yeah, man. Like anything, I think it goes ups and downs. Like the early 1990s was down business wise, but they had great wrestlers. And I think you could probably say the same just now. Just there's so much wrestling. It's what do you watch? Like if an average fan coming in, like if you was to check out one of our channels, daily content pretty much, and it's just like, okay, you've got AEW, NXT, NXT UK, WWE, SmackDown, Raw, and it's just like, what do I get into? What do I watch? So I think saturation is a problem at the minute as well.
Yeah, I mean, there is an argument. You could say sometimes it's quantity over quality, but then when you look at certain products like AEW, they've got the one show to focus on. It is pure 2 hours of quality each and every week. And depending on what your favoritism is to those shows, it's the thing to find. But in a way, it's so great because people that want to find something, there is something for everybody in today's market. So you and me, it's quite a lot when we have to actually, put out the content for people as well.
Definitely. I meant for starting this kind of during the pandemic, it was great because I was wrestling every single night. I was able to do something the next day when like my business was closed and stuff like that. I was like, you know what, I've got something to do. But getting people in is just, when you tell somebody there's so much wrestling to go check out, like you kind of need to dip your toe in everything and find out what you like, because there's just so much of it. You've got the independents, Japan, like we said, Impact, WWE, AEW, and like you says, there's something for everybody. I don't think there's been a time in wrestling when nobody could watch it. I think everybody right now can just tune into it and enjoy something that they could get their teeth into, really enjoy the story.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's great to see, because that's the way that we can build some fans for tomorrow.
Definitely. I mean, the problem just now is obviously not that many people. It's not cool to watch wrestling again. But that's going to come back eventually. Like it always peaks and troughs. That's how any business works. But the business side of WWE and wrestling makes more money than ever before. But it's just the viewership side and people thinking it's cool and enjoying it isn't as big as what it used to be. So I think it's just kind of ups and downs. Like I'm sure you know as well, everything goes ups and downs. And I think for me personally, I'd say we're coming for like an up. Like I would say you can't avoid it with AEW, how good they are, NXT, SmackDown, Raw somewhat. It depends on part of what hour of Raw you watch.
Yeah, of course, that's the thing. I think that when we say quantity over quality, Raw is the one that suffers the most, being 3 hours. At the moment, I'm spending a lot of time catching up on WCW Nitro because through the 90s, like I didn't have as much access to be able to watch that stuff then as I do now, and I can appreciate it more now as well. But I've got to that stage where you've got 3 hours of Nitro, 2 hours of Thunder, and it becomes quite heavy. So it's like, it's the same thing as what you feel now with everything. It's like, and I wonder if that was a contribution of what actually was the demise of WCW, because they had each and every week.
Yeah, man, I do like my watch alongs on the channel, and I'm only on the hour Nitro and the hour Raw, and it's great. Like you get a good story told, good couple of matches, and then it's over.
Yeah.
But when I watch like 1999, 2000 Nitro, and it's like 3-4 hours, 3.5 hours for a special, sometimes you're like, Jesus, how did somebody sit down and watch this back then? It's even now, like Raw, like I watch it for the channel, but I try and catch most of it. If sometimes I'll fast forward through some bits because I'm like, there's no way I can sit for 3 hours, like just sitting sedentary watching this show, because it's too long, and sometimes it's too bad to sit and watch it like that.
No, it's so true. You have to prioritize, because it's very hard. I mean, I'm the same with like NXT UK. I mean, definitely New Japan. I'm only around for that usually for the big shows like Wrestle Kingdom, Dominion. You can't do everything, because I mean, like you won't have time even to do like work or spend time with the family or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So it's like you need to find that time there. So no, it's not easy to do, is it?
No, sometimes it's just like, for me running a business and stuff like that, I get up at 4 a.m, 3 a.m in the morning, and I go to bed at like 11. So I've got like a lot of time that I can watch stuff. But NXT UK, as much as it's from the UK, it's cool. It's got good wrestlers in it, good wrestling matches. It's just, it always goes by the wayside for me. I don't know why. I'm just like I know it's there. It's easy to watch. It's on the network. I've got it right in front of me on my phone and Xbox and stuff. But I just let it slide by. I'm like, I don't know why.
Yeah. I mean, I try and keep up with what's going on, but like now, I mean, before the pandemic, I was watching it every week because I managed to find the time to do so. But since they've come back, I watched the cup they had. It was like the British Rules one, which the name now escapes me, which is a bit annoying. But that tournament I watched through, but then everything else since, I've kind of like I've come in for the big moments, like I made sure I saw Volta Ilya Dragunov, one of my favorite matches of last year, which shows why we can't dismiss it. But at the same time, it's hard to watch every single match. As much as there are some people definitely keep an eye out for, there are some talents that you just say, I can't physically find the time to sit there and say I'm gonna watch like a Kenny Williams match. Do you know what I mean? I will do my best to find the time, but it's hard to have that dedication to every single superstar on every single roster.
100%, man. For some reason, like I was saying, NXT UK just gets that. I watched the Walter match, and that was after everybody was like, "You need to go check it out." So I went and watched that, but like, it just goes by the wayside, and I think that's the problem with WWE. There was this big global plan. NXT wants to have like NXT India, UK, France, Africa, all these kind of different areas. Nobody's going to have time to sit and watch it, and I think it's just going to cause like a Disney effect. Like, people will be like, I'm not watching this. This is too much.
The poor writers as well have got to come out for a different storyline for every show. Like, it's like, what you come up with? Like, no wonder we're going down the supernatural route recently. It's like they've run out of things they can write for,
They're trying to get in contact with the supernatural to somebody to write this. They're like, what do we do here? But that's it. One of my friends used to work at WWE as a writer, and he said it's like it's good, it's fun. He's like, I love writing. He's like, but it's terrible. He's like, I've got so many people. He's like, and then all different departments talking about different things and how merch and all this kind of stuff. And he's like, it's just far too much, and it's 3, 4, 5, 6, then a pay-per-view, and then the storylines for long-term, short-term. And he's like, I just quit. He's like, I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah, it would be a dream. I'd love to be involved with the creative side of things. It's one of the big drives for me in wrestling is the storylines. Obviously, I love watching a good 5-star match, but I love the story investment of what it gets you there. And I mean, to be in that position where you can create that, I think would be a dream. But at the same time, I can understand there's so many, if you want, there's too many cooks in the kitchen, it sounds, from what you hear from reports of WWE. Like, you look back in the day, you had a couple of writers in those glorious times, and where there's a couple of heads working on it, yes, it's a lot to deal with, but at the same time, you've got people that have their idea of what the storyline's going to be. They can plan perfectly at start, middle, and end, where if you've got 24 people writing the show, and one person's dealing with one story one week and someone's dealing with the next, it's hard to say that those two people are going to connect and have the same vision of how that story is going to lay out.
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of people just like like anything, too many cooks spoil it. Like if you're running a business, if I'm talking to 12 people that run the same business, everybody's got a different idea of how that's going to be going. So you just kind of need to, like if you're down the pub, everybody's got a thing about football or rugby or whatever they're talking about. Everybody is the coach, what they would do differently. Sometimes that feels what WWE does.
Yeah, especially if you look on Twitter, that's definitely what we all do, isn't it? Let's be fair.
100%. And so what's something that you love about today's product? Is it how much of it is? Is it the different promotions? What is it something that you love about today's product?
I mean, from an in-ring perspective, it's better than it's ever been. Yes, there's a lot of flips and that, but I mean, if you look at things that, I mean, compared to back in the day, like you can watch some classic old matches and being fair, like even the lowest ranked superstar, people can have a dig at Ricochet all they want, but I'd much rather watch him than bash them boogers. You know what I mean? Like it's a different ballpark. And I love the fact that we have the access to be able to see everything that's going on, like with wrestling, like whatever promotion it is. Up to like a few years ago, I would never have been able to spend time watching a Ring of Honor pay-per-view, where now if it's there as an access and you can find a way to watch it, it's great you have that sort of ability. But also, I mean, storylines do keep me hooked, but I think the thing that's most of all is potential. I see potential in what we've got with the current crop of superstars, and I see that we can get what it once was. It's just needing to find that creative storytelling to connect with it, which some weeks they do. I mean, you look at Roman Reigns, what they're doing with him right now is perfect, and it's bringing the bar up. They need to find a way to do it across the bar. That for me is
Yeah, 100%. I think what you were saying, like they had sometimes hit it out of the park, like with Roman Reigns and stuff like that. Other times they don't. But just how much it is and how easy it is to access anything, like YouTube's got a ton of Impact Wrestling, the old like TNA kind of first early days, which is they're great shows. Pretty much it's just a WCW 2.0, but it's just great to watch. Then you've got AEW Dark, and that's my positive is how easy it is to access wrestling like across the board. It's one of the one of the best things about it, and good for us, obviously, creating content for it.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
And what's one thing that you hate about today's product? If you were to be like, this is the worst part of the wrestling community or wrestling, just shows in general, what's one thing that you hate about the whole thing? Or dislike? Hate's a bit of a strong word.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'll go with dislike rather than hate. But I mean, dislike, I mean, obviously the quantity sometimes can be there. As we said, Raw, I'd love it to go back to 2 hours. I just think Raw, if you cut like the hour of filler out of Raw would be instantly seen as good as SmackDown. I don't think it's even a debate in that. The third hour is what kills it. I do think sometimes, and I can be guilty of it as well. I mean, I think sometimes we can all be a bit too quick to judge something that's happening on television as well. Like, say, with a storyline, for example. A Raw is a prime example this week, and especially with the Lacey Evans announcing the pregnancy segment. My initial thought with that was like, oh, they're not bringing a pregnancy segment into this thing. Like, this storyline's going bad enough. We can't add this into it. But then, like, you take 5 minutes away, and then you learn that actually it's a shoot. It's genuine. She's actually pregnant. They've got to write her out of TV somehow, and they've got to try and continue somehow this storyline at the same time. Yeah, it's probably a bit weird that Rick's dancing like he's at a wedding and that he's going to be the father, but he's the greatest player in the game. We should expect Rick. This is classic styling and profiling. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know, maybe we are too quick to judge sometimes.
Yeah, man, I love the storyline. I honestly do. Like, I'm not a big Lacey Evans fan, but see the like Ric Flair, like the old kind of like styling, profiling, kind of Ric Flair coming out with like the blonde girl and stuff like that. I think that look it's just funny. And then it was like the pregnancy angle. I thought it was funny as hell. And then obviously I found out it was like a shoot, and I was like, that's even better. That's such a cool idea to like just to write somebody out that way by being like, oh, it's Ric Flair's.
Of course, you know what I mean? So, and the thing is, like, we compare this as well from today to the Attitude Era. And I mean, let's not forget, Mae Young gave birth to a hand. Like, that's awful television. And we go, oh, it's the best time ever. And like, then we say today, oh, it's awful that she's, So I think sometimes, even myself included, we can be quick to jump the gun today.
100%, man. I think everybody, I do it as well. Everybody like just sees it and they're just like, oh, this is terrible. But we remember from back in the 90s with Mae Young giving birth to a hand, the Val Venus with the sausage chopping up thing and stuff like that, which was just embarrassing when you go back and watch it. You're like, why are they doing this?
Exactly. Like, and I also feel like probably the best way to put it is like you just sit there and think things now. And I think that if you let a storyline play out, like the best storylines are the ones that have time to develop, and you let it breathe week and week. And AEW is a great example of Kenny Omega and Hangman Page last year. That was like a 10-month kind of thing that was going on from January when they become the champions, 2 single stars, learning to work together, becoming the team, then losing the belts, and Omega saying, hey, I'm going towards my heel character, I'm going my own way, and Hangman's got that vulnerability left behind. That storyline was just left to breathe and left to play out. And it was beautiful because of it, where if we don't get something instantly sometimes, I think people just jump on things now. And perhaps the internet is part of that. I don't know. But it's just, it is an interesting part of how if a storyline is allowed to play out, we definitely feel a lot different the other side to it rather than the instant, reaction that you can get off one little week where something may just not connect as well.
Yeah, but I think it's mostly probably booking-wise for WWE being the only company for so long. They know that they could have that little, okay, we start this story here and we finish it at the pay-per-view, and people just got so used to that kind of instant, like, okay, there's a result, that storyline's done. Back when we were watching wrestling at that early 2000, sometimes it was on for a year. Look at Stone Cold and The Rock. That was, 4 or 5 years?
Played over, isn't it? Yeah, and that's the thing is what you said with rematches as well. Like, that's something in today's market that you could argue and say, oh, it's a bit of a problem. And it's something that I find a bit of a problem with Raw because they have like 15, 20-minute matches every time. You feel that story has been played out. But you look back to 2000, you mentioned Austin, The Rock. There's the Dudleys and the Hardys and Benoit, Jericho. All these matches were rematches so many times. But maybe because the matches were shorter, the shows were shorter, we didn't get the whole full story. So we were kind of more willing to sit there and see those rematches after rematches. So I don't know if that's a difference with today's market as well.
Yeah, definitely, man. I think as well, the shows were shorter and also they didn't really tie up in the ring so much as like a wrestling match, like an Austin Rock. It would maybe be somebody's interfering or Austin gets knocked out because of McMahon or something like that. Like, it was always like something happening. So then at the pay-per-view, when it was just like these two people will wrestle, it was like must-see pay-per-view. And then obviously they've messed the kind of pay-per-view game up just now for wrestling. So you're kind of stuck waiting for the network.
Yeah, of course.
So what got you to set up your channel? What was the idea of, I'm going to do this channel?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a bit random. I don't know. I would watch odd YouTubers. I kind of got into the YouTube game in 2016 to begin with, and I was watching odd YouTubers say their opinions and say what they thought. A lot of time was rumors and stuff like that, and I just thought to myself, like, I had ideas. And one of my best friend, actually, when I spoke to him on the phone about it, he said to me, man, you should be doing that. People would be interested. So, like, all of a sudden you kind of take what they say, you know, and you put it out there. So, I mean, you can blame my best mate, really, if no one enjoys it. But, like, at the same time, though, you know, it's great to do a platform. I mean, at the start when I did it, I kind of got lost in the headlights because I wanted to get views. So I ended up going down the path of news, rumors, and trying to do videos all the time on that sort of stuff. But then I got burnt out, and I kind of realized that wasn't the direction I wanted to go down. So in the last sort of year to 18 months, I came back in, and I've done like Q&As. I've done videos that I've actually stuff I want to put out. I love doing storyline based stuff where I can see directions of where a story can go. So that sort of stuff is what I'm passionate about. So I've been really happy with that. And I think it's definitely connected better second time round compared to the first.
Yeah, 100%, man. I think that's such a cool story. Like, if you're on the phone to a friend and that kind of got you involved in the wrestling kind of stuff. For me, it was COVID. I had nothing really else to do. I had to find something to do. I wasn't just sitting at home teaching my kids. I had to vent somewhere. And I was watching wrestling all the time, and I was like, you know what? I'll give my chance at this YouTube game. Now, I think I didn't start taking it kind of seriously till maybe like November. But like, it was just like, I'm just going to video myself talking about wrestling. And then I got quite a lot of followers. People, well, no, not a lot, but like on Twitter, people like it. People say like, oh, I just like how you're just chatting about wrestling. I've just kept it that way. I try and not make it like poor or edgy, and then you see some videos and it's like they've got all poor mega edited and it's like lights and stuff, and I'm like, you know what, I don't have time to do that. So I'm just a guy talking about wrestling.
Of course, but sometimes isn't that good? It's like from pure roots of what it is. You know, you're just there with a camera expressing your opinion, and there's so many opinions out there, which I think is a really good thing about. You know, we can say that, you know, earlier on we were saying about people jumping the gun, but isn't it great we have this platform? We can all sit there and we can all express our opinions and stuff, and it's a great way to watch because, I mean, there are people doing different ways, but in the purest form, it's one of the reasons why I really connect. It's really good to just sit there and watch you talk about wrestling. It's just, you know, it's really nice to see that.
Yeah, man, it's just something. I'm one of those people that just like stuff being really basic. Like, my business life is always pure hectic, so when it comes to personal stuff, it's always just basic. Side stuff is such a basic kind of thing. I just like the like the podcast kind of atmosphere when it's you can watch somebody just speak like this instead of from like editing stuff and that. Obviously, I do know how to edit. A lot of people always say, "Do you not know how to do it?" And I'm like, "No, I do. I'm just I've got too much to do. Like, I don't have enough time in the day to sit and edit a whole show." But like your stuff as well, man. It's just it's a cool idea. Like, everybody's got their opinion in wrestling, and right now I think the wrestling community is quite a positive place. Like, on maybe not on Twitter, but the YouTube content creator ones are always like pretty positive. Like yourself, you've got Bonafide Heat, the Elitist, all these different guys that just kind of like Dan Williams. I know you've had him on your podcast as well. They just kind of just help everybody out, and everybody's just happy about talking about wrestling.
Well, it's one happy community, and I think it's good because everyone's got something they're really passionate about. We can all just talk about it. It's really nice. I love the fact that we can all just on the community. There's so much support. It's great to see.
And where do you see yourself in 10 years? Do you see yourself still making YouTube videos talking about wrestling, or do you see yourself involved in the business? Or,
I mean, I can't really say I'd ever seen myself involved with the business. I mean, I've never took a bump. Let's put it that way. But you know, when it comes to creative things, I'd like to see if the content can get further and get as many people to listen as. Love the interaction. I love the fact that someone will drop a comment on a video of what I've talked about and they've said why they like it or even why they don't like it. It's good to have that back and forth communication, because that's what I think the beauty of wrestling can be today, is the fact that we all have different opinions. It's nice to learn those opinions. But from another standpoint, it's something I'd like in the next 10 years. I'd love to go to a WrestleMania. I've never been to one. That would be a great dream to do. But of course, I think at the moment with the tough right now, but you never know. I mean, you say in 10 years, maybe there could be a chance.
Yeah, man. I turned 30 this year in June, and I was meant to go to WrestleMania and the Royal Rumble this year, which obviously COVID just tore that apart. So I was like, I'm already stressing enough about turning 30, and then I was like, you know what, I'll be able to go to WrestleMania and Royal Rumble and just do something that I've not done before. But obviously that's ruined it. So COVID gave me my channel and also took my my WrestleMania dream away from me to go watch it.
Well, there's always next year. That's always the thing. You can always do 30 again, because have we really aged during this pandemic? We've had a year taken away. I think we should get it back, don't you?
Definitely, man. The worst thing is I went in, my birthday's in June, so I went into the lockdown kind of stuff when I was 28, and it looks like the stuff will be finishing up when I'm 30. So, like, I've lost like a long time.
Yeah.
So I'm just staying. I'm staying 28 for another 2 years, so it's okay, man. I'm changing my date ever.
It seems fair. If you ask me, it seems fair.
And if you could be involved in wrestling, if you could be a wrestler and step in between those ropes and wrestle your favourite person ever, right? Who would you want to wrestle? What event would it be? And kind of what year?
Wow. I would pick 3 options if I could, because I'm greedy, just because. If I was when I was getting started, I'd go with Shawn Michaels, because I think Shawn Michaels is probably the greatest in-ring performer of all time, any generation. But I do think Shawn's second spell, he had some real classic matches. So probably in around the mid-2000s. RVD is my favourite of all time, just because I just think he was just, for the time he was around, he was so innovative and different and fresh to any other wrestler. No one was doing what RVD did around, the 2000s. So that would be a great match. If I was to do Step in the Ropes today, AJ Styles, mainly because, I mean, he's my favourite today, but also I know, particularly with a lot of these workers, I'm guaranteed to a safe match. These people have got me covered, so they're probably be my choices.
Mine has to be Bret Hart or Sting. Just Sting at his peak in WCW, but Bret Hart just for the fact that I think Bret Hart's the best in-ring worker of all time. Like I believe he's moniker. I think he's the best. Obviously, he's sometime that bit 97 when the screw job happened and stuff like that. He went to WCW, was a bit weird, but he still put on good matches.
I still put on good matches. I mean, I would agree with you, because now going through that part of Nitro now, and not long ago did the Starrcade '97, which has to be some of the worst booking I think in wrestling history. I think that's the turning point that WCW starts to go down. But when you look at it with Bret Hart, I mean, they had a great match with, I believe it's Sold Out with Ric Flair. That was an amazing match they had, and like you said, is the fact that every move meant something. Just like Dean Malenko, every move links to the next move, part of the story where they're working on the back or the leg, and everything means something when they wrestle. So I think it's a great shout that you picked Bret Hart. I'm a big fan of his work.
And what you were saying about Shawn Michaels, that second run that he done after he lost his smile and then came back, the second part I think was probably one of the best parts of his career, because you've got the Elimination Chamber 2002, you've got his World Championship run, his stuff with Triple H, which was just like the first part was SummerSlam 2002 and stuff, and then the Hell in the Cell Last Man Standing match. Just everything he done there was just great. And then he had that amazing match with Shelton Benjamin on the Raw as well, which was probably one of the best matches that have happened in Raw.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, but that super kick as well, when Shelton comes flying off, we just see it. I mean, we sing our KOs and stuff now from out of nowhere, but that was special, and it still rings to this day. You watch that super kick, it's just so sweet the way it's hit. So, no, I'm down with you on that.
And what's your opinion on the AEW NXT kind of war? What's your opinion on AEW as a new company? Do you think they're doing good? Do you think they've still got a lot to learn? What's your opinion on them?
I'm sure they have got a lot to learn still, because I mean, no company can just walk straight in and be perfect. So for as much as what I would say, it's all going to be positive in a second, that they do good, there's still But I would turn around and say that majority of what I watch AEW do is what I am looking for in wrestling. I love the stories, the storylines. A lot of them are long, drawn-out storylines. Sometimes you could say they may be slightly too slow-paced, but I like the fact you build stuff week on week, and you build and you get a big blowout, and then when you get that big moment when you don't feel it or see it coming, you feel that emotion. And not to connected to NXT, but it's very similar to Vengeance Day with Adam Cole this weekend, obviously, when he did the super kick on Balor, then on O'Reilly. Those sort of moments there, you sit and go, it's been building for a long time, and it's very, very special when it happens. I go back to Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Hangman Page, my favourite storyline of last year, and it's amazing thing when you look and say, well, this company is that was its first full year as a company on TV each and every week. So I think Dynamite's doing a lot of things right.
Yeah, man, I would agree. I'm not the biggest AEW fan. Like, I'm a wrestling fan. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't try and pick a company, but I would say that there's some mistakes here and there. But overall, like, it's for being a year in the business. You know what I mean? It's not like they've ruined wrestling. I mean, they're still
exactly, yeah.
They're still brand new. And if you think like back to, well, I was watching my watch along on Sunday. There was Raw, and there was Crush versus Bobby Who. Like, I was like, oh, we came a long way since this. I mean, so I really think like there is AEW still got a lot to learn, but I'm not a big Young Bucks fan. The tag team wrestling stuff sometimes can be too much, but it's different. Do you know what I mean? You're used to that WWE stuff. It's just a bit different, and I think it's going to be maybe 5-10 years from now. It'll just be as big as WWE or just getting up there as well.
Yeah, I really see bright things for their future. Like you say, there are things they have to work on, but they do a lot of good things, and it's a different thing for a different portion of the wrestling community to go for. If they're sick of watching Raw, if they're not into Impact or whatever, they've got AEW to go to. And like yourself, I class myself as a wrestling fan. I don't sit there and go, I pick one side or the other. If push comes to shove, yeah, I suppose I've followed WWE for like 30 years, so I probably would say them. But I love wrestling. That's what it's all down to. So,
Yeah, definitely, man. I'm one of those people that will sit and watch like a wrestling match from like 1979 just to see what it looks like and stuff like that. Like, I'm just a wrestling fan completely. AEW, like I said, for me, when I watch it every week, it's an enjoyable show. Like, I wouldn't be like, this is the best show in the world, but like it's an enjoyable show. They've got things right, things wrong. Same goes for NXT, who have been there much longer. They're competing well with them. So I'm happy just watching wrestling. I think AEW, I love the look of the ring. The guys they've got look like wrestlers. They're not just like people that can do tons of flips and look amazing. And then they've got like the classic stuff like Sting, which I marked out like a big girl when he came out.
You weren't on your own on that, I can promise you.
No, man, he's my he got me into wrestling. So when I first saw him, I was like, that's a wrestler. Like, I remember watching that Bash at the Beach '99, and I think it was him, Kevin Nash against Savage and Sid Vicious. I remember watching that and being like, they are professional wrestlers. I want to do that when I'm older. And I was just like, that's the kind of weird. My son loves them now as well. So I'm like, it's such a weird like round
cycle. I mean, I wasn't. Well, the thing that got me into WCW, because I couldn't see WCW so much, but was the same. It was Sting, and I remember like getting the little figures when I was a child, and Sting was just special. There's something about. I mean, it was the bleached blonde Sting for me, but they just. You saw a star, you saw something special, and like that, that was when we could. At some point, there was WCW Saturday Night was on ITV, and there was a brief period for like a year or so. We got that. I tuned into that just to watch Sting because Sting was a different level. So I'm with you, man. I would mark out for Sting. He's literally one of the biggest legends. It's just a shame we never got Sting versus the Undertaker. That was the dream match that we could never get.
100%, man. I probably would have cried at that match. I'm not going to lie, but. For me, it was that kind of 99, 2000 time, if you remember when it was on Channel 5 on a Saturday, like 8 o'clock was Nitro on a Channel 5. That's what I remember. And just I was like, is Sting on the show tonight? And I would just sit and watch it till he came out. And then I'd be like, Sting, running away to get like my figures and stuff. So I think it's it's cool to see as well like how wrestling can go across generations. But that Sting Taker match, I'd still take it today, no matter what it would be like, just to see them come out and do nothing.
Absolutely. Just have the stare down. I mean, the story itself would play out so perfectly, so it would be amazing. I guess, though, in the meantime, I've got to settle for Sting versus me, Mark Callis, haven't I, from WCW? But, it is what it is. But, yeah, it would have been epic.
When you look at The Undertaker, Mark Callis back then, it's like, how did you become The Undertaker? Like, he's so pale, he's mega ginger, he's like... Yeah. It's like, what? How did you become one of the biggest wrestlers, if not the biggest wrestler ever?
It just shows the sweet of what you can do to really make a star. Because I mean, the Undertaker's last ride and the stuff he shared before, like obviously the big infamous egg that was the Survivor Series that also debuted the same night, and he said, "Got the phone call to, oh no, there's an egg." Just like he thought to himself he was going to have this horrible gimmick, and then it's like Undertaker's like, Undertaker. Yeah, that's me. I'll do that. And it's like he come in and he lived the gimmick and he turned it into something. But like you say, if you'd have said 6 months earlier, watching that guy, you saw potential in him, but you saw him as Mean Mark. You didn't see this character, and it just shows you can make stars from, like, you know, if you give them the right gimmick and the right direction, that it's there. It's a possibility is endless.
100%, man. But could you imagine what the audience would say today if, like, well, okay, we're going to get this graveyard guy in? Like this Undertaker coming out and he walks slow with gloves and stuff like that. People would be like, leave. No, we're not watching that.
To be fair, it should never have worked. But I mean, it just goes to show that the talent under Mark Calloway, like that he could make that gimmick work, and he's managed to transition it over the years. Just like, I mean, Jericho in a different way is transitioning his character to keep relevant. Undertaker always knew when to go to the badass, when to come back to the taker, when to change the look of the gloves, the style, and even towards the latter part of his career, like when you look like WrestleMania 25, 26, those matches with HBK are some of the best of his career, and that's when he'd been around for like 20 years.
Definitely, man. Like his stuff in 2009 with Edge as well was just insane. But Jericho's, what do you think about his run in AEW? Do you think he's doing good? Do you think maybe like he's lost that star power kind of feeling?
I wouldn't say he's lost the star power. I think he's a big reason why AEW's got to where it's got, to be fair. I mean, they've been where I would say AEW's been very clever with their booking is that Jericho was the first world champion. He got himself a stable because he's older. He can help pass his knowledge to superstars in his group, to people that he wrestles and stuff. So from an experience point of view, it's fantastic. And as well for name value, he was the right guy to hold the belt first. He dropped it to Moxley at the right time, who was the right guy then to carry it to 2020. Now it's time to push the generation of tomorrow. We've got Omega. We could push Hangman or whatever. But for Jericho, I think we're getting near the end. I think we can see the transition with commentary. He's doing it so often. He probably did it, 10 weeks of Dynamite last year. I think eventually he'll probably... Meantime, I think he's got a vast knowledge, and I think he's doing a lot for the in-ring talent. So it's good to have him around, and I think it's good that we don't see him wrestling every single week. I think it makes him more special on those occasions we do. I'm just happy we get Judas, though, every week, because then I get a chance to sing along.
I think as well, a lot of people forget, like, the style that Jericho done does not fit for, like AJ couldn't keep up with his 22-year-old self. I mean, like, fresh out the bat. In WCW, he couldn't keep up with himself then, or early TNA. There's no way they would keep up with each other. But the Jericho stuff from back with the early 2000s, even like 2006, 7 onwards, it was a lot of like just really hard in the body, like flips, just stuff you wouldn't be able to do if you like. I can't do that. You know what I mean? I'm 29. I wouldn't be able to do like a flip off the ropes like that. I'd slip and hurt myself. So when I see like him doing it, I'm like, it's better than me. I couldn't do that.
Yeah. No, of course, no. I wouldn't dream, to be fair. So.
And what do you think about Edge winning the Rumble? Did you scream like a little girl like I did, or did you just kind of go, it's okay?
I liked it. I know a lot of people didn't, but I have my feelings for it because, I mean, Edge is in his mid to late 40s now. I think it's 47, if I'm not mistaken. Edge never got to end his career on his own terms, and it's going to be 10 years to when he had to retire. Never lost. You've got the comeback story. You've got a feel-good moment written here, and arguably, I mean, whoever you have it against, you have a dream match scenario to do that. But Roman Reigns' work is so good as well that you argue that this could be made into something really, really special. I don't know if Edge will win the championship right now at WrestleMania, but I was so happy to see it. I think that I don't see who else would have won the Rumble, if I'm being brutally honest. I think you want to build the new stars, but I don't think they're ready. I think that they need big WrestleMania wins this year, and then around SummerSlam we can start pushing Keith Lee, Big E. You know, there's got other stars that you can do it there. You could argue the Jey Uso story could come back into fruition because that's been booked very well. But for people that could have won the Rumble, I think Edge was the right candidate.
Definitely, man. I totally agree. Edge winning was probably I totally forgot he was going to be in the Rumble because I was like AJ Styles or Daniel Bryan. But then when Edge came out, I was like, I forgot he's definitely going to get the win here. Like, it's the only feasible option because he's over. He's probably the most known star. Well, he was the most known star in the Rumble at the time. And like you said, you could do a Jey Uso cost Roman the belt or something like that. There's lots of stories you could go if he's doing it with Roman. If he's doing it with Drew, he can make Drew look amazing. Yeah. So it's a good, or if he's going to NXT to do something there. I doubt it, but there's a possibility.
It would be epic either way, wouldn't it? Let's be fair, it would be epic. But whatever he decides to do, I think it's going to be a great WrestleMania match. And for me, if they really home in on the story, they can really make it work. And the thing is, as well, you say about the Royal Rumble, Christian returned as well, and the fact he can amazing as well. They can play it into the storyline also. So wherever he goes and whatever he does, I think there's a lot of potential.
Yeah, I was 100% sure Christian wasn't going to get it. I don't know why. Like, that guy's always been the second-rate Edge into, like, I love Christian. His time in TNA was great. His matches with Abyss and Sting was all great. When he won the belt against Randy Orton was great. Just he never feels like a
champion.
So who would you say is your favourite wrestler of all time? Is it Shawn Michaels like you?
I would probably see, in a way, it's Shawn Michaels, but I think for the innovative style, Rob Van Dam has always been the one, I think, because I marked out so big when he won the WWE Championship back in 2006. That was something I was wanting to say it should have happened years before. So I think RVD's got to be the guy.
Man, I used to be a huge RVD fan. Like, I've got like signed pictures of him and stuff like that when I went to like a signing. But I just fell out of love with him. I think because I watched far too much of his content. Yeah. It just kind of made me fall out. But for me, it would need to be Sting just for that all-round. For a guy, he's highly underrated for how good he is in the ring, and also he just looks like a professional wrestler.
Yeah. The thing is, he's evolved as well with the times, just like others like The Undertaker as well.
And what's your favourite event of all time? Just your favourite thing you would be like, do you need to sit down and watch this pay-per-view, or is it a Raw? What's your favourite event?
I think it's got to be WrestleMania 17. It's a close knit between that and 19 because I think both shows are near on perfect, and it's very hard to. We said there's good and bad and everything, and it's very hard to get near on perfect. There's probably a handful of pay-per-views that are. WrestleMania 17 just pips it for me because just the timing of how everything is when you look at things at that point in wrestling. WWF at the time had purchased WCW and ECW, and the war was finished. Austin and The Rock were at the height. Austin had been out for a lot of 2000 as well with that injury, and The Rock had carried the company and still continued to push it on to get them to win the war. So the fact that we had them two in that big main event, also TLC 2, there's just it's a near enough from start to finish a perfect pay-per-view. So for me, I think that's got to be my pick. What's your one?
Everybody I've had on this man say WrestleMania 17, so that's always like the go-to, like WrestleMania 17, SummerSlam 2002, stuff like that. 19 is up there for me, just for that Vince and Hogan moment, which is great.
Yeah. It is.
Me personally, just for how much it means to me, would be King of the Ring 1999. Just it was the first time I ever put the VHS in. Like, when I watch it, I see myself as a kid sitting there with figures in front of me, just enjoying it. But as a wrestling fan, it would need to be 17. That has to be just.
It's a great choice though. You always remember your first proper show, and I have the same sentiment to WrestleMania 8. I mean, a lot of people will criticise that event because it should have been Hogan versus Flair. It's main evented with Hogan Sid Justice and a poorly timed run-in from Papa Shango. But you know, for me, it's still special, and particularly those first 6 matches, even to the point where it cut out the VHS, it's so special for me. So I agree. You, as they always say, you always remember your first.
Yeah, I think it was different back like in the 90s and early 2000s as well, because like it was like you have to put the tape in and record it and stuff like that. I had to go buy it. You didn't get a lot of them, so it was like quite hard to get even VHSs back then for WWF at the time in the UK. So you would need to like either record it. You got 1 or 2 every couple of weeks, every couple of months, sorry. And then when you seen it, you were like, "Oh, this is great," but you were like months behind the rest of the world in wrestling.
Yeah, that's how it was. It's how it was. It wasn't easy. No.
And where can people find you if they want to go check you out? I know I've got all your links in the description below, but just in case people don't go to the description.
Yeah, of course. No, I appreciate. Oh, SCW, the wrestling channel, obviously is the YouTube channel, just over 800 subscribers. So I appreciate everyone's support and stuff. And that there's lots of Elimination Chamber based themed videos that have been done this week. As well as that on Twitter, SCW_Steve. You can find me on there. Also, SCW, the wrestling channel, is on Instagram and Facebook. I'm getting a bit better at using those pages as of late, particularly Instagram. So definitely worth a follow. Love to interact and talk wrestling. So yeah, hit us up. Come and check out our video. Everyone is more than welcome. Content is family friendly. It's there for everyone.
Yeah, man, I've just left the Elimination Chamber stuff this week. I'm going to do it next week because everybody's doing it, and like you guys do, it just looks a lot better when you guys are doing it. So I was like, I'll just talk about it next week. I'll leave it this week.
Well, I'd definitely love to hear your predictions for the show anyway.
I mean, I'm saving them for Sunday. Now, get on. What's your predictions for it? What would be your
big? Well, I'll tell you what. One big prediction I got, which is someone that I did a podcast with from Jonesy Chats Wrestling. He predicted the idea of Mustafa Ali taking Kofi's place in the Chamber, getting revenge for Kofi Mania a couple of years ago. I can see that going down the more I think about it. I think it'll be a really good idea, but I don't see either of them winning the Chamber. If I was to give one now, I think Drew McIntyre retains the championship.
Definitely, man. I think Drew's going to retain. I think the Roman angle so after the kind of Elimination Chamber, he's going to have in a single match. I think that's just the best heel work we've seen in years. Paul Heyman being Paul Heyman great always. But the rest of the card, I'm not really excited for it. Apart for the Chambers, I know there'll be good matches on it, but I'm just like, I'm not really invested in like the card at all.
It's not really a full card. I think that's part of the problem. I mean, it feels very unorganised compared to usual. The fact that doing a predictions video, it's probably one of my shorter ones that I have actually for a pay-per-view at the recent time. So probably more actually appetizing for people to go and give it a go because it's shorter. But you know, you look at, so there's only 5 matches at the moment, and obviously one of them looks like it's off because Lacey Evans is pregnant. So they're going to have to do something to change that around also. So maybe we get 1 or 2 matches added on SmackDown. That'll add a bit of hype for the pay-per-view. But yeah, I think that's part of the problem, and I think that a lot of the results that probably adds to it as well. It feels slightly more predictable if you look compared to the Royal Rumble, which was a complete open field.
100%, man. And finishing off, like I know you'll remember the Bobby Lashley back in like 2006, 7, that kind of time. Back then, like he looks the exact same guy. I think he's a good wrestler and stuff like that. It's just no championship material. I know everybody keeps saying like, give him the belt, put him over, but for me, he looks the part. He looks like a wrestler. He's athletic, he's good. I don't see him having the belt. Same as Keith Lee at the minute. I don't think you should give Keith Lee the belt. I love Keith Lee. I've watched him since years. And then I'm just like, I don't see it yet. I don't see them having the belt at all at the minute. Are you the same, or are you?
I feel that the time could be coming for both of them. I think Lashley is in the best position of his career now. And it's weird to say because he's also, I mean, he's only a couple of years younger than Edge. So this goes that everyone says put the belt on Lashley. And, you know, the same with Edge, that, you know, ages are close. But with Lashley, I think I can see a different side of him. He's been booked so well in the last 12 months, particularly since after Backlash. I think he needs a big win. And, I mean, I'm not thinking this is going to happen on Sunday. But, for example, if he was to be, let's say, lose the championship without being pinned, and they give him a match against Brock Lesnar like he wants, and he wins that match at WrestleMania, I think MVP as the mouthpiece, I think he would look creditable in that role. Keith Lee, it's too soon. He could have been the guy if he was booked as Keith Lee when he come up to Raw, but he's been mismanaged in the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 months personally. And I think you have, like what he had in NXT, a US title run, I think would be great for him for a number of months. I think you get to the Royal Rumble next year. I think his time could be then. I do see them as champion. I just don't think it's yet.
Yeah, that's what I was meaning. Like right now, Bobby Lashley is like obviously he's a couple of years younger than Edge. He's not any spring chicken, but like I could see him as champion, but just not just now. There just needs to be a couple of things put in place, and then it'd be like, yeah, he's the guy. Like, at the minute, I just still see him as that mid carder. Like I remember when he won the ECW or the WWE ECW championship, and I was like, okay, this guy's just holding this belt for some reason.
Yeah, of course. Because they're trying to push him, didn't they? They gave him that big feud with Vince McMahon, which arguably was what probably killed ECW as well, that WWE brand of it. But he then got a move to Raw, didn't he? And he had a big match with John Cena at the pay-per-view for the championship. That would have been the time to pull the give him the belt, but he didn't win it. I think he got injured as well, unfortunately, and then he left the company about 6 to 8 months later. So we didn't get Lashley for all them years, and you really felt he was going to be the guy then. But like you say, since he's come back, he's been presented as a mid-carder. It just feels that now the wheels could start to turn the other direction.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that they do, man. I hope they do something with him because he looks the part, like he's shredded, and he just looks like a world champion, especially like if he comes out wearing a suit with a belt, just being pure like I don't care, and then you put him against Roman, unite the belts. It'll just be a great show.
Absolutely, yeah.
Anyway, man, thanks for coming on. I'm going to end the podcast here, so if you wait for like 2 minutes, then I'll talk to you after the podcast is finished.
Absolutely.